We are oppressed. We are exploited. We are downtrodden. We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights. One day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. And always feel that your life has ultimate significance.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Civil Action. I have a great guest here for you today who has many accolades behind his name. I certainly can't wait to, for you guys to meet him. He has been described as a super lawyer, a political activist, a Democrat, and he is running for the Pennsylvania Lieutenant Governor position. And I am so very excited for you guys to meet him today. Steve, welcome. How are you, sir?
I'm great, Todd. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, you know what? It's not every day that we get big shots like you here at Civil Action. We want to take an opportunity to kind of pick your brain and find out what you've got in store for us here in Pennsylvania. But before we get too deep into the show, why don't you take just a moment and introduce yourself to your potential candidates? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Great. Well, hello, everyone. My name's Steve Irwin. I'm an attorney in Pittsburgh. I've lived in Pittsburgh longer than anywhere else in my life. We can talk about the other places if you'd like, but I live in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, Pittsburgh, Squirrel Hill. And with my family, I have 3 kids. I have a wife who is an artist, Andy, a son who's a broadcaster, a daughter who's a physician, and a daughter who is at the City of Bridges School in 11th grade. And a lot of animals, it seems. I'm exploring a launch for Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania. So I'm not a big shot yet, but I'm working on it. And I'm not sure, Lieutenant Governor really was ever seen as a big shot until the 6'8" guy in shorts became our Lieutenant Governor. His incredible spouse as the second lady of Pennsylvania. But I think it's a really important position and one that's undervalued. And we can talk about why I've chosen to run for that position in particular. I'm talking to you from my office. I had some court matters this morning, so even though I'm not wearing the tie now, I had to be in my office, which is a rare treat. So I'm here at Leach Tishman, Fiscaldo and Lample, where I'm one of the original 5 equity partners of the firm. And on the side, I do a variety of other things that are both fun and business and politics and government. I have a show like you do, Political Jungle, and I'm excited to meet your viewers and let them know a little about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it.
Yeah, I read your background, your bio, and I was really impressed. I understand that you're an athlete. I guess you were a rower for many, many years. And you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. That's always fun to talk about. Some people view rowing as to the political consultants, they don't talk about rowing because it's an elitist sport. But I've spent 25 years trying to make it not an elitist sport. When I was growing up in Florida, I played basketball and baseball and went to college, and everybody who had played sports in high school who was over 6 feet tall got an invitation from the coach of the crew team. I didn't even know what crew was, and invited to come out and make it. It turned out to be probably one of the toughest sports I'd ever done. And I was ready to give up until my roommate said I wouldn't last 3 weeks. And then I just had to stick with it. I did get hurt my senior year and went on to not row again until I ended up in Pittsburgh, where we have one of the best environments in the country to row. 3 rivers, mm-hmm. You've got miles and miles of rivers. And we've been very involved in growing rowing in Pittsburgh to be available to everybody. We have over 1,000 people who row out of 3 rivers rowing. And we're named during the time that I was chair of the board, the U.S. Rowing's first community rowing club of the year, because what we did to expand rowing to kids who didn't have access to the rivers, to people who were disabled, to people not regardless of their sexual preference or otherwise. we made it friendly for everybody. And now we have continue to have one of the greatest rowing programs in the country.
Well, that's amazing.
If you want to take a tour of the office at some point, I keep some medals around just for inspiration. I'm not competing anymore, which is another story, but I did until 2012. And every so often, if I think I can't get up that mountain, I take a look and I remember some of those races.
There you go. It's a very different day, here in Pennsylvania from what I'm accustomed to. I'm a 60s baby. I grew up on the north side, and I'm certainly familiar with all the political stars that were around at least in my era. But for whatever reason, this seems like such a very different political environment today. The issues with COVID and some people wanting to wear masks, people not wanting to wear masks, the political discourse that took place at our Capitol. Politics at this point has become one of the most important responsibilities, right? One of the most important responsibilities that any citizen could have because the consequences are so high. Tell me a little bit about how you feel about COVID and what we need to do here in Pennsylvania to rid ourselves of this dangerous disease.
Well, Todd, you touched on a number of things. I mean, first of all, it seems like politics is different right now because it is. It's very different. I grew up in the 60s and 70s also, and I watched. My earliest memories are watching the funerals of Robert Kennedy and Jack Kennedy and Martin Luther King, and that really influenced me in a very large way. I still remember watching in black and white into the wee hours of the morning what was going on. When I went to college, I ended up going to college with Caroline Kennedy, who was, Jack's daughter, and it just really inspired me to be involved in politics. I would say that COVID is a tough issue. My daughter's a physician. She asks me every day what I'm doing, if I'm wearing a mask when I'm out there meeting voters. It's very hard to campaign in this environment because you need to do it outside. Fortunately, it's been the summer and the fall. Many people are very careful, but we've done a pretty good job in Pennsylvania of getting people vaccinated, and people are mostly fully vaccinated. But it still is it's a disease that we don't completely and fully understand, and we seem to be insisting on ignoring the science and taking risks. Because it's something you can't see. And this is something historically, when you can't see it, you can't believe it until somebody close to you has been affected by it.
Sure.
So, the Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania, one of the Lieutenant Governor's responsibility is emergency management. And certainly responding to a pandemic is something that we need to be able to do. And it's not going to be the last pandemic. We've got to do better. The rollout of the vaccine program in Pennsylvania was one of the best in the country, and it still fell far short. To expect 70 and 80-year-old seniors to get on a cell phone and play vaccination bingo to try and get signed up to get vaccinated was just not rational. So we need to do better. We need to find ways to make sure that our kids are going to be able to learn in these situations, and just remote learning alone is not sufficient, especially when we don't have sufficient internet access, not only in our rural areas, but in our cities. And we've got to recognize the impact that this is having on everybody's behavioral and psychological states, especially kids who are really growing. They're in adolescence and they're maturing during those times. During these key developmental stages are really being challenged. And so this is going to be a tough winter, and we have to be prepared for that. And we have to really be thinking ahead and doing our kind of homework so we can take care of those who are affected by this disease.
Yeah, our voters are a lot more educated than, maybe they were in years past. I mean, we have access to the internet. We watch, a wide array of various news sources, and, voters, at least now, they're really concerned about not just the rhetoric that we hear out of our candidates, but, what we actually do. And I know that, at least as it related to Mr. Fetterman, that he was very, very much concerned about, people who have had, perhaps an issue in their past with regard to, a criminal issue, and not being able to get back into the workforce, not being able to, to kind of put that behind them because they had a felony conviction and it just prevented them from, moving forward in the workforce. And I know he created this pardon system that, at least right now, it looks like it's doing fairly well, and individuals who didn't have access to the system now do. I mean, at one point, if you had a felony, you couldn't vote, right? So let me ask you, is that something that you believe is important? Is that something that you plan to continue? Because as Lieutenant Governor, you would be that guy that would be responsible for that particular department.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Todd. The Lieutenant Governor serves as chair of the Pardons Board. And Lieutenant Governor Fetterman has made great strides in making sure that people who have been incarcerated for nonviolent crimes are given the opportunity to restart their lives after they've paid their debt to society. They're entitled to provide for themselves. How can you expect anything other than recidivism if you're not going to give people a platform to be able to to be enfranchised, have the vote, to get involved politically? They've had a lot of time to think about these things and maybe contribute. And as long as they stay within the guidelines, they ought to be able to provide a life for themselves and their families. So, but there's a lot of other things we can do. First of all, a number of people go to prison who shouldn't necessarily go to prison for as long or even be convicted, because we don't support our public defender system in a way that they get a fair shake when they're first going through their prosecution in the first place. So we need to, I can tell you examples of situations, because I'm very involved in the Big Brothers Big Sisters program. I'm the longest serving board member of Big Brothers Big Sisters in Pittsburgh, and my little brother is now 47 years old. So I've seen how mentorship and having the right relationships and getting the kind of support you need during these difficult times can really save your life and give you the next opportunity to get on the right path and to have a future. So the work in pardons that's been done recently is good, but we can do more. And, not only we can affect these things through our educational system, we can do it by supporting our social service agencies, both in the government and in the nonprofit community, and giving kids a vision, a path, and giving them the support they need so they can have the opportunity to have rewarding lives ahead.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about, right now, COVID has just affected everything. Businesses, I guess they're kind of opening up, but, there seems to be a big disparity between what businesses can ask a patron to do as far as wearing a mask, or whether a business can require that their employees continue to wear masks. And I don't know that there's a clear understanding as to whether companies have the ability to do this. What is your take on that situation? Because obviously, if businesses aren't able to open, they're not going to be able to survive. That's going to have a great impact on our economy. But at the same time, we need to keep people safe. We need to make sure that, we can survive this, and not have, the kind of situations where our loved ones are dying because they went and got a hamburger at McDonald's. Right.
Well, that's another great question, Todd. I happen to be an employment lawyer. I'm here at my firm, and we advise a number of businesses on how to respond to this. And frankly, the landscape's constantly changing.
Sure.
The governor has imposed what he believes is in the best interest of the people who are wearing the masks and the people who are with the people who are wearing the masks. And the employment, businesses are having a hard time. They're having difficult times making those judgments as to how to, whether you're a Walmart or you're otherwise. It does get easier when the president of the United States says we're going to impose these mask mandates, because then the businesses can blame it on somebody else and do what's safest, and they don't have to make those hard decisions, right? I think sometimes bright lines just make it easier for everybody, and everyone feels more comfortable, and they can do what they need to do. There are businesses that are not going to be able to operate in the way that they traditionally operated, and some will pivot and find good ways to deal with those situations, and others will just flagrantly disregard the law, and others will not survive. But we have to recognize that the businesses, we can't pick and choose the winners and the losers. If there are some that are going to have to be sacrificed in order to save and reach our herd immunity and protect the community as a whole, then we need to be prepared to give them the support they need to get through this pandemic. We can't just, pick our winners and let those who can't deal with it just fail. People have invested their livelihoods to build businesses, and they've taken those kinds of risks. They shouldn't have to take the risks of risking their lives and their health and those of their patrons. We should just make it as easy as possible. We don't know all the answers yet. The answers are changing, but why not err on the side of being safe?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think that's a really responsible approach to it. Unfortunately, it's caused so much debate. It's almost like even having the conversation, with someone is like talking about politics and religion. It's just so divisive at this point. But I thought your response was very well thought through. Let me talk to you about this. What is the primary reason, if somebody, said, hey, I like what Steve has to offer. He sounds good. But really, how does he differ from, any other person that's running for lieutenant governor? What stands out about you that you believe a candidate should hold on to, when they're coming to the polls and make that decision as who they want for lieutenant governor?
So, Todd, I think that we have some great people that are looking at running for lieutenant governor right now on the Democratic side. Really impressed with the group that's out there right now that are rumored to be thinking about it. I can't make any statements about who's going to do what. Brian Sims is the only person who's in the race right now, and myself, some other folks who are thinking about it. I see them out on the campaign trail, and they're all very impressive. I happen to be the only of the people that I'm aware of running are all state representatives. I'm somebody who was not elected to political office before. And so, I'm not a career politician. And although I've had the privilege of being appointed to many positions in the course of the last 40 years of my career, I've held positions in every level of government, local government, regional government, state government, the federal government. I have held positions in every branch of government, in the judiciary, in the executive branch, and in the legislative branch. I currently serve as the chair of the U.S. Civil Rights Commission in Pennsylvania, and that is a really, really important position in the sense that we are investigating and making recommendations to the U.S. Civil Rights Commission in Washington on voting rights and discrimination, and trying to make it a fair playing field for all. And that kind of experience, coupled with the fact that I've also have a lot of business experience. I've owned businesses, I've owned restaurants. I happen to be my family, my wife and I, and another couple happen to own a golf course, River Forest in Freeport in Westmoreland County, which is the first majority women-owned golf course in Pennsylvania. It's one of only 10 in the country that has 50% Black ownership. That has opened up an opportunity for people of color in business and otherwise to take advantage of that kind of access, to entertain clients, to get out and enjoy recreation, to be a part of the community that has previously, when they haven't maybe felt as welcome. I'm a business lawyer. I understand business. I understand politics. I've run and pretty much done everything you can do in a campaign other than be a candidate. And now it took a pandemic and I'm crazy enough and I'm doing it. But it certainly is, the opportunity to go around the state, meet voters, meet people in small counties, in rural counties, in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, Erie, Mifflin, York, et cetera. I really get a sense of what the issues are and what people care about. And I'm an advocate. I'm an attorney. That's what I've done my whole life, is speak out for people and try to articulate their needs in a way that's compelling, maybe in a way that they're not trained to do. And that's what I hope to do in this position. Because of the positions I've held in healthcare and in education. I've taught high school, I've taught college. I chair the Pittsburgh Regional Health Initiative. I've done, a lot in the nonprofit sector. I think the totality of this is something that just through many years of being there, I'm experienced and I'm confident and I can get things done. And I think we need a little bit of gray hair in the room. I'm the oldest of the people who are running for the office. I still got a lot left in me. Look at our president and our previous president. I still have a good 20 years to serve, and I've decided I want to be in public service. Lieutenant governor for me, I think, is a really appropriate place. I'm very comfortable not being in the spotlight. But if I have to be, I'm prepared and ready to do it. And we want to make sure that whoever our lieutenant governor is, it's somebody who's ready to be governor. So that's, I think, some of the things that distinguish me.
Very impressive. How can a voter find you if they want to look you up and see what what your history looks like? Sure.
So you can go to steveforpa.com. Pretty easy. If a crocodile shows up, you're at the wrong website. And you can look at a little bit about, what the things that I've done, why I'm doing this. I really believe that I'm running for three reasons, Todd. I'm running because I think government's tried to do too much. I think that the things that government really needs to focus on what's fundamental and make sure that those things are accomplished. And we're just not getting the job done. And you need people with experience and competence and relationships and sense of urgency and vision to really be in that position. And what government needs to focus on are those things that ensure that everybody has dignity. Everyone is given the tools to have self-respect and live a life that's meaningful to them. It doesn't mean you have to have more things, more material things. You just have to be able to experience life on a day-to-day basis. I think one of the ironic things about the pandemic is when we were forced to stay home, you saw what really mattered. It was your relationships with your family and your friends. It was hearing birds and animals in your backyard, maybe that you hadn't heard before. It was having a chance to read and think and contemplate what really mattered. It wasn't about the next vacation or the next this or the next that. We need to give everyone that sense of self-respect, that dignity. And there are a bunch of ways that government can help do that. The second thing that's important, what I would ask myself every day that I woke up as lieutenant governor, is, am I helping inspire people to think about their neighbors? Are they gaining a sense of responsibility for each other? That's what I think of when I think of humanity. We're part of the human race. We're connected. We're together. When I go to sleep in my house in Squirrel Hill, what's happening a mile to the south or to the west and the east, people are having very different experiences. I need to wake up and say, what can I do to make their experiences something where, I care about them? And that's really, frankly, the mask thing. It's not for you. It's for the other people who are with you in the room. Just put on the mask. And so dignity, humanity, and then leadership. I've led so many organizations in this region. I've had from the parking authority, where we took that was a parking lot across from the Cathedral of Learning in Pittsburgh, and we turned it into a little bit of paradise over there. We got rid of those meters. Remember all the meters? We made multi-space meters.
I remember it well. I've got many tickets.
Yeah. I get them too, but and pay them. But it's a lot easier to pay them now than it used to be. So, from that to being a Southwestern Pennsylvania commissioner, where I built on my work when I worked in the U.S. Senate in the 80s for our inspector for 6 years and was responsible for transportation, helped to get the money through the appropriations process in Washington to build the LRT out to the South Hills, the Martin Luther King Busway, 279 out to the north. I understand the importance of transit and transportation. I personally don't own a car. My wife, I'm not sure if I may own it, but it's not my car in my house. It's my wife's car, my daughter's car. I take the bus. I now take these little scooter things around. I took one from downtown out to the Strip yesterday. And, we have to provide safe access. It's really important to have access. It's really important to be able to get to the places you need. Obviously, with the internet now, we're expecting people to work from home. We're expecting them to go to the doctors from home. We're expecting them to be entertained from that. And to do that, you got to have the internet. You got to have broadband that's sufficient. And you need that all over the Commonwealth. And especially, I've been to places like Huntington County where I met a teacher in an elementary school who literally had spent the night before 2.5 hours downloading lessons for her third graders. That's not okay. That's got to change. It's something, and it's a problem that can be fixed. And the federal government's sending a lot of money here to fix those problems. And as Lieutenant Governor, I want to make sure that everybody benefits from those things. When you look around, you got to look all the way around. When you're at the table, you got to make sure everybody's at the table. That's what I've always done, and what I'll do as Lieutenant Governor.
Okay. You brought up some interesting points, and, here on this show, we don't ask just the questions that, I think are easily palatable, but maybe it's the opposite viewpoint. What is going on with the workers who have been receiving unemployment benefits throughout the course of the pandemic? And now we're in a situation where, McDonald's can't even hire enough people to show up for work because they make more money being on unemployment. Certainly, that I don't believe was the intended result, but it seems that way to me. And I think the taxpayers are paying a significant price because our resources are not necessarily being managed in the appropriate way. First of all, what is your feeling about that? And then secondly, what's your plan of action, should you become Lieutenant Governor?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked me that question, Todd. And everyone who's watching know that Todd and I didn't plan this out. We didn't go over the questions in advance. This is, I'm on the hot seat. So, and as a talk show host myself on Political Jungle, it's good to be on the other side every so often, right? So I want to say three things about that. First of all, as a business owner, I know how difficult and frustrating it is to try. We've had to shut down our restaurant, a lot of our banquet facilities, because we can't get people to come to work, to serve, get people to come to work, to cook, get people to come to work and do those frontline jobs that you really need in order to run a business. Part of the reason is that people have to get their mindset around the fact that if we're going to pay people to risk their lives and be out there on those front lines, we need to pay them. And a $15 minimum wage is not unreasonable. If you want to be able to eat out and have that luxury, then you ought to be able to pay $15 an hour to people and take care of those people who are out there doing that, trying to provide for their families. So let's get the wage out to where it makes sense for people and to be incented to go to work. And if you have to raise your prices, that's okay. Because you know what? If you don't want to eat out, then eat at home, because you can eat very inexpensively. There's plenty of food out there. We have to take care of the people who are doing those jobs out on the front lines. It's really important. I know that, everybody brings worth. Everybody does something that they do better than everyone else. I can list a lot of things I can't do. Thank goodness I have my brother, for example, who has that side of his brain and can do the kind of, screwing things in and screwing in the light bulbs that I can't screw in. And there's times that I can't see what I'm trying to read if I don't have the light bulb. So that person's pivotal. I don't get to do my stuff unless they're able to do their things. And I may be paid more because I've had, for whatever I was blessed with, to be able to go to good schools, get a good job, have a good career, something that businesses are willing to pay more for. We should be able to pay a decent living wage to those folks. That's number one. Number two, in terms of the unemployment compensation, that's not going to last forever. This is something that is going to end, but and I know how important that is. I was there in the 80s when the steel industry collapsed in Pennsylvania. We saw 27% unemployment. Those were the first times that I first came to Pittsburgh. I remember As a young staffer from Washington and coming and driving along the parkway and seeing the smoke up along the Mon River and seeing the steel mills and then see that disappear. My job was to help Senator Specter because I did labor issues for him, helping to make sure that we could extend unemployment benefits during that really difficult times. The economy is cyclical. It's going to get better. It's going to get worse. And what we need to do is take care of those people who've worked hard and earned the right to have that support through this difficult time. And there's a lot of different ways to try to give people the opportunity to provide for themselves, and we need to do those things. Unemployment comp is good for a while. It's not good forever. We have to incent people to get out, but I think get out and get into the workforce. But I think if we can pay them what they ought to be paid, a decent living, real wage, if we take care of them during this difficult time and we recognize the value that they bring to the table, I think we'll be in a much better situation. There we go.
Yeah. Well, listen, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedule to hang out with me. Your responses to my many questions were very sincere, and I certainly have a lot of confidence that Pennsylvania would be, in good hands with you at the lieutenant governor position. And with that, I'm going to give you an opportunity to, sort of make your final statement to our potential, our candidates as to why they should vote for you. And I appreciate you being here. Lastly, do you have a final message for our voters?
Yeah, my final message to everyone. Thank you, Todd, first for having me on today. I congratulate you on a great show. Civil Action is a great name. It's a great book. If you haven't seen the book, watch the movie after. But the book's better than the movie. But my final message is this: it's not about me. It's not about whether I didn't grow up wanting to be lieutenant governor necessarily. I wanted to serve. Everyone should find the way that they can serve best, because it takes a village to run this Commonwealth. So please just don't stay at home. Please do whatever you can to make sure that we get progressive, smart, experienced, hardworking people. We need people who are workhorses, not show horses. And that only happens if you vote. So please vote. Please register to vote. Please get your neighbors to vote. I'm not saying, every candidate, look at every race, look who's in the race, and pick who you want to, because we still have the right to vote. That's the most important thing that each of us has in this country is the right to vote. And to the extent that all of us can help to get more people registered, get to the polls, and make sure we have full and fair elections, that's the most important thing that we can do. I know good things will happen. I'm stepping out. I'm doing this as long as I can. Lieutenant governor doesn't work out, I'll do something else. I'm not going to sit home. I can't do that. I have children. I hope one day I love my grandcats, but I'd really like to have some grandkids too. And I want to live in a world where I want those kids to be born, where they can breathe fresh air, where they can have a great education, where they can, be assured that they've got health care and can really live a life that for them is fulfilling, and help other folks who may be not as blessed to be able to live a fulfilling life. So thanks again, Todd. Everyone get out and vote, especially this November. We've got some judicial races that are incredibly important. I encourage you, Todd, to get those judicial candidates on the show. David Spurgeon and Lori Dumas and Tamika Lane and Maria McLaughlin. They're absolutely critical to making sure that our right to vote is preserved and that we live in a democracy for the rest of our lives.
I will certainly reach out to those candidates. I've known Mr. Spurgeon for 25 plus years, and I would be honored to have him on the show as well. SteveForPA.com is where you can find him. This is an incredible opportunity for you as a voter to find out what Steve's about, to get involved in the electoral process. And I'm honored to have him here, as a guest on our show. If you like this content and you want to see others, please don't hesitate to hit that like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm sure Steve would love to hear from you. I'm sure he has some social media platforms that, he would be honored to respond to your inquiries and your questions. So by all means, look Steve up, look me up, leave those comments and those likes. And if you like this content and you want to see others, please hit that like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel. But that's it for our show today. Again, thank you, Mr. Irwin, for being a guest on our show. And stay tuned for other more exciting guests and more awesome shows.
We have to go to the root. We have to go to the cause. Dealing with the condition itself is not enough. And it is because